What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live, presented by BetOnline. Today, we got a feisty stream. We got to talk about Damian Lillard and more rumors in the offseason. Part 59, or whatever we're on at this point, Eric. So we're going to break down the latest, newest, juiciest rumors. Maybe this time it might be different. And I know that sounds sarcastic, but maybe it might be different this time. I don't know. We'll see. We'll discuss that today. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll discuss Chris Haynes reporting. We'll also discuss, since we're on the topic of Haynes, we'll probably discuss the whole Chris Paul thing and him being waived, because then there was also a random report that was very fishy about the Suns are trying to clear up cap space for Dame. Our boy Gabe just dropped a video on it, so we'll react to that. And we'll talk about Dame. He had an interview. He listed a couple teams he would like to play for if he was playing somewhere else.
No.
And, it was taken completely out of context and ran with it. Despite in the same interview, he said he envisioned staying in Portland. What were you going to say, Eric? What's up?
Correction. He was asked what of 4 teams would he like to go to and answered the question honestly. He did not bring up any team in the whole interview by himself. Every team he brought up was asked first by the interviewer if he would want to go to there. So, he didn't even bring up any of the names.
Yeah, but, it was set up in a way. Hey, props to the interviewer, by the way, because he set up that interview in a way where he knew he was going to get a ton of clicks and a ton of traction for that interview.
Yep.
And it was a boxing interview. Nobody is going to pay as much attention to boxing. No offense to our boxing fans out there. No offense to Dame since he is a boxing fan. But nobody's going to pay that much attention to boxing right now as they will pay attention to any Dame rumor that they can get their hands on, no matter who it's from, no matter where it's from, no matter how logical it is under the CBA. Or regardless, if it's a Dame rumor, people will eat that up. And we got to talk about it today because it's getting frustrating, okay? I'm getting tired of it. And this is going to be the stream where we vent a little bit because, dude, I am tired of being kicked and kicked and kicked as a freaking Blazer fan. So that's what we got on tap for you guys today. We'll also talk about Dame clarifying that interview because he went on IG Live tonight and clarified that interview. But before we get into things, we got to thank BetOnline. Use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for a 50% reward bonus. You can get in on this finals action. There might only be 2 games left of the NBA season, and then I'll have to figure out some sort of different layout for this because the bottom ticker will be rendered useless as it would officially be the offseason. If you want to get in on some action and have some fun with those final 2 finals games if the Denver Nuggets can win, or maybe it goes long. You could have 5 games left. This series might go 7. Who knows? You can get in on, 4 games left. Why am I doing math as part of the ad read? I don't know, but you can get on the action with BetOnline, promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV. All right, Eric, ad read out of the way, intro out of the way. What's up, chat? How are you guys doing, by the way?
Yeah, how's chat doing? Let us know how your day is going.
Shout out to Henge and Pen. Sorry if I messed up that username, but says longtime fan, and I'm graduating from high school, and you guys have been helping me get through the nights full of studying. Appreciate you guys a lot. Hey, man, thank you for the dono. Congratulations on graduating high school. Big accomplishment for you. So round of applause in chat for Henge and Pen. I still feel like I'm saying it wrong, but congrats on graduating, and congrats to anybody else out there who graduated this year. I know we got a couple regular viewers that were also graduating this year, so that's really cool to see. Congratulations to all of you graduates, and thank you for the dono.
Ditto. Congrats to all the graduates, and hope graduation goes well. You have fun at your grad parties and all that.
Yep.
But yeah, thanks for the donation.
Armand Jackson is graduating tomorrow.
Reese,
so shout out to him.
Reese graduated last weekend.
Yep, Reese graduated. So we're growing up here at Blazers Uprise. Growing up. And the 3% of our viewers that it says are under age of 18, because it only says 3% of our viewers are under 18. That's going to be like 1% or less than 1% here in a couple of years. Now I know people lie about their ages, but...
Yeah, 3% honesty here on this channel, I guess.
Yeah. So congratulations to all of y'all. Also, before we hop into things, hit the like button for us because we're suffering here as Blazer fans, all right? And the like button makes us feel better, okay? We're at 36 likes, 170 people in here. Thank you for tuning in. The like button soothes the pain for us slightly. Not a ton, but slightly. So hit that like button. And Eric, I'll kind of just give you the floor since I like letting you lead us into topics. I mean, we really only have one topic today to talk about, but there is multiple different little tidbits and stuff. So I'll let you kind of set the stage since you do so well.
All right. I think I need to rant for a second.
Go ahead. Floor is yours.
All right. So this front office is definitely torn on what to do. We've talked about that several times, right? They definitely like the idea of going young, but they also want to, give Dame a chance to win here if he still wants to be here. But here's where I have a problem. Okay. Cronin takes over, December of 2021. He tells Dame, at the trade deadline that year that what's best for them moving forward is to get as much flexibility as possible, right? And to deal players like CJ, Rocco, Norm, Nance, get that cap space and stuff to be able to, come in and get the players to build a different, better team around Dame, right? So Dame, has the surgery and all that, agrees to not try to come back that season, even if they have a chance to make the playoffs, and agrees to sit out. Comes on the last game of the season, promises them it'll be different, right? Because that's what Cronin told him, that this summer they're setting themselves up to start building towards winning a championship, right? So what happens during the summer? They decide to keep the pick, fine, that's probably the right decision, right? And then their big other move was signing Gary Payton and trading for Grant, who Dame already knew was coming here months beforehand. So Cronin was like, okay, this is just the first step. At the trade deadline, we'll get the pieces, to fill in, and this is a process, a couple-year process, and that's fine. Dame was fine with that. But something happened around the trade deadline where Dame was asked to sit out games in which they were only a couple games out of not only being in the play-in, but having to not be in the play-in, right?
Yeah.
And that didn't sit right with Dame, right?
Yep.
But what word have we heard every interview with Dame and Cronin and everyone pretty much? The word is transparency, right? Yeah. We are transparent with Dame. Cronin is transparent with me, right? Mm-hmm. So they went to Dame and said, look, we still want to win with you, right? We want to be dedicated to win with you. To do that, it is better if we do not make the playoffs this year, right? And as much as Dame didn't like sitting out, he was basically told if he would sit out the games, they would have a better chance of going all in and getting those moves done for him, right? So they convinced him to sit out against his wishes, all because of a promise that this summer would be different, no more messing around. They are using their assets to go all in, right?
Yep.
And then that's why that's why he comes out and says, yeah, I'm not worried about leaving. I'm going to be a Blazer, right? Because they're going to hold their word, right? They're transparent, right? If that transparency BS was just that, all BS, this organization, I will never freaking forgive them, because it's not about whether you want to trade Dame or not. You can't make that promise. And then when you get an asset to trade, when because Dame did that, you can't then say like, well, maybe we should just go completely young and just trade Dame. You know what I mean? Like you can't really just do that, right? Like that's not transparent. That's the opposite of transparency,
it's
right?
Lying.
You freaking lied to Dame, right?
Yeah.
You never were gonna give him a chance if that's what they do this summer. So this whole time they've been full of crap if that's the route they go. And we can argue whatever you want. Like, I completely understand if you think that's the route they should take, if they should say screw Dame or whatever, like, fine. That's completely okay. But if this organization, for the entire time Joe Cronin's been a GM, has sat there in every session with him, every conversation they had, and said, don't worry, Dame, we are committed to you. We will get you a winner here in Portland. Bear with us. And then all of a sudden just pull the rug out from underneath him when the time comes to actually do it. One is, maybe they're just not good enough to do it, and they realize that. That's certainly a possibility. But two, they're all freaking liars, and I will never trust them again, and I will never believe in this team, no matter how good they are or how good they do building the team. How is that any different than what the load of crap Olshey gave us for a decade, right? Like, everyone was like, Olshey's an oil salesman. He's a used car salesman. He's a soap opera star. He's not a real person. All he does is lie and frickin' that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
This is worse. This is worse than any lie Olshey told. I mean, it's not worse than, like, misconduct or whatever. But it's worse as a person to frickin' lie to someone's face and tell them
for years.
For over a year, yeah. And for every deadline to tell them you're going to do this. And then when it comes time for you to actually do it, just be like, oh, sorry, nope. That's just not right to me. And if that's how the Dame era ends in Portland, I honestly, I don't know if I can be a fan of the Blazers anymore, because it's just not how you treat someone who was loyal back to you. It's just disgusting in my mind. And I will never be able to forgive Cronin or Jody or whoever is in the front office. It's just, that would be despicable. So Dame seems pretty confident that they're not going to do that to him. I hope he's right, and I hope they don't decide to do that. I think we still owe him a legit chance, at least for a year or two, to see if he can win a ring with the winner. And if they don't do that, it's just a bunch of BS, and I will not just sit here quietly about it. I'm going to speak my mind, and I'm going to go off every freaking day on this organization until all those people in the front office are gone. And even then, I won't forgive them for doing that to Dame if that's what happens.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments to respond to. One, Randy Powell came in here and said, man, more whine about Cronin. Who would have guessed? If you don't have a problem with Cronin blatantly lying to Damian Lillard and pulling out the rug out from underneath them, then would you ever have a problem with anything that Joe Cronin does? Like, that seems about as bad as it gets. And I'm not saying that's exactly the case. We're talking about if that's the case. And if that's the case, I don't see how anyone doesn't have a problem with that. Or doesn't at least understand why other people would have a problem with that. So, that comment was kind of ridiculous to me. Hopefully he's not lying to him. And then there was another comment.
Well,
Kyle said, go ahead.
Let me just say something. Randy, I mean, you were in the comments of last stream whining about us talking about Wiseman again. Like, if you don't like us talking about this stuff, then don't watch, man. Like, you've been watching for a while now. I know you. But this is going to be a talking issue until something happens that makes it differently and this roster is fixed or something happens. So, like, I don't understand why this isn't relevant. First of all, it's not like we're just bringing something out of the blue, like criticism that like out of left field or something. This is actual stuff that's happening with our franchise. And this whole day today was about Dame discourse on all social media, nationwide. So like, I don't get how like we're like, oh, we're bringing this up again. Yeah, we're going to bring it up. And, like, it's completely relevant today. I don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you find yourself consistently complaining about what we're talking about, then you can't really get mad at us for whining about something because you're whining about what we're talking about. So,
and this is freaking ridiculous, dude. You're just like Cronin, man. Can't disagree with something someone else says. Yeah. How is you telling us we're whining about Cronin again a take? That's not an opinion. You're just telling us we're whining about something. That's not your opinion, dude. Your opinion would be like, oh man, I have Cronin's back. Like, I think he's a good GM. That's your opinion. That's fine. If you want to believe that and say that, go ahead. But you saying you guys are whining about Cronin again, that's not you having an opinion that we're disagreeing with. What the hell are you talking about, man? Come on, dude.
I mean, that's just the common retort for people to fall back to when they're complaining about us is that retort, so whatever. Means nothing to me at this point. There's another comment from Kyle who says, I agree with Eric, it's wrong to do that, but how is that different from what Brad Stevens said about not trading Jaylen Brown? You guys said, what do you think he will say? Brad Stevens tried to trade Jaylen Brown last offseason for Kevin Durant, from all accounts. So he's already tried to trade him before. And then also, we're talking about, it might not be Brad Stevens' plan to trade Jaylen Brown, but that could be under his own assumption that Jaylen Brown wants to be there. If Jaylen Brown doesn't want to be there, then that changes, right? That's not Brad Stevens lying to Jaylen Brown. That's Jaylen Brown saying, I know you don't plan on trading me, but I want to be traded, which is completely different.
Just like if Dame came out and said, you know what, fine, go with the third pick, like I just trade me or whatever, like then you can pivot. But if that's because they weren't willing to trade, then that's completely different. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't see how years of saying we're committed to building around someone, and one time someone saying, "Are you gonna extend Jaylen Brown or trade him?" and then them saying that they're gonna do everything they can to keep him or whatever. That's two different things, man. I just don't understand.
Yeah. Solid question, but yeah, that is the difference. Shout out Rip City 208, $5 dono, says, do you think Dame's continued comments about trading the third pick hurts our leverage? Is expressing it to the media his way of pressuring Cronin? I think it is his way of potentially pressuring Cronin, but also like Dame is just upfront and honest and speaks his mind, so it could be as simple as that. As far as it potentially hurting leverage trading the third pick, I can't say that it's not. It's not going to help. It's not going to help the Blazers pull off a good trade with the third pick. I don't know how much it hurts it, but it's not going to help.
Well, I agree. It's not like ideal or whatever. But at the same time, I mean, Cronin and Dame both said, you know, they want to be here. Cronin wants Dame here. They're committed to winning with Dame. Like, what the heck else does that mean? You know, teams aren't stupid. It doesn't matter what Dame comes out and says, that people understand what that means. They're trading their assets or keeping them and going young and doing that. So, like, it's not like that's going to be like, oh, I heard Dame say that they needed to trade the third pick, so that means that we're going to get a deal on it or something. And I also am a little, like, confused as to how the third pick is like a generational player for us, and we'd be like the biggest idiots in the world for trading it, yet it's not good enough to land like even a non-all-star. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it just seems weird that like I don't see how, like, either a team loves Scoot if he's there, or whether Charlotte takes Scoot and it's someone else, or they don't. It's not going to matter what Dame said when it comes down to it. And I hate giving GMs an excuse just based on leverage and stuff, because there's several other teams where you can create leverage with as well. Like Toronto, for example, they try to act like they have leverage in every trade, but both Siakam and OG could leave after next season. So yeah. How is that, like, how are they not having leverage against them just because their players don't come out and say they need to make certain moves or whatever?
Here's basically the situation we're in right now, okay? The Portland Trailblazers are the most clickbaitable team in the NBA. And they, therefore, are the most talked about team in the NBA. You guys wanted the national media to pay attention to this team? Well, they are. It's just not for the reason we all wanted. You know, when the Blazers play well, we want our love. But this is the most I've ever seen national NBA media pay attention to the Portland Trail Blazers, and it's because they are preying on our downfall. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's that simple. And it's because other fan bases are preying on our downfall. You know how I talked about in the intro? I'm tired of getting kicked over and over and over again. Other fan bases, the rest of the league, are preying on the downfall of the Portland Trail Blazers. They can get a lot of clicks out of this team right now, so you will hear the most random, unlegitimate stuff that you can imagine. Like, there's a report today, Phoenix Suns looking for Damian Lillard. The Phoenix Suns have no way of getting Damian Lillard. They have DeAndre Ayton in second-round picks. Yeah. Like, DeAndre Ayton's a negative contract. Like, it's just absolutely ludicrous. But guess what? Suns fans are going to be like, ooh, we could get Dame. I would love Dame. Dame's so much better than CP3, you know? Old wash CP3, right? He might get waived. Like, of course Suns fans love the idea of having Damian Lillard with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. I can't even blame fan bases for getting excited at the idea of stuff like that, of having Dame on their team. Dame's obviously respected. It's funny, though, because the same fans that would love to get him, if he doesn't go there, will say, oh, thank God we didn't get him. He's too old anyway and overpaid and blah, blah, blah. The same fans across the league that want him and are preying on our downfall to get him will be the first ones to just act like he ain't shit when he gets traded somewhere else or doesn't want to come to their team, right? It's very fickle and wishy-washy, you know? Like, it's frustrating for me as somebody who's sat here and defended Dame against all these rumors year after year after year to have to end up doing it again and deal with these types of fan bases. It's very frustrating. And it just feels like, oh, here's another summer where we just get kicked over and over and over again. Unfortunately, though, this is actually the first time I've worried about the potential that Dame might not be a Portland Trailblazer, and it's because I don't know if I can trust this front office, and I don't know if Damian Lillard can trust this front office, because I think there's a legitimate chance that they will pull out the rug from under him and say, nope, we want to go young. And that just pisses me off. So it basically creates a situation where this offseason is it just sucks for a Blazer fan. It absolutely freaking sucks for a Blazer fan. And that's really where we're at right now. And we're just going to hear rumor after rumor after rumor, no matter how much it makes sense or how little it makes sense, regarding Damian Lillard, regarding the third pick, regarding who the Blazers could trade for, regarding who they could trade away. And basically, any deal that I've seen this offseason is the Blazers getting fleeced. So we got to deal with seeing that too. Like, oh, what idea does this fan base have today where we get absolutely screwed? So, you're like, it's going to be basically an everyday thing from now until the draft where you're hearing rumors about this team because media outlets can basically make up anything. And you can make up so many different things with this team regarding Dame, regarding the third pick, regarding whatever. And people are going to read it and people are going to pay attention to it because people are preying on the Portland Trail Blazers' downfall. So that's why you're going to see a bunch of rumors regarding the Blazers that a lot of them aren't legitimate or aren't founded in anything. Or a lot of them is taking a piece of something along with a piece from something else and combining them into something that makes no sense. We've seen it play out. So we'll talk about what Chris Haynes said and the whole thing about the Blazers being willing to work with Dame to trade him to an Eastern Conference team that he wants to go to, because that was a key part of that quote, an Eastern Conference team that he wants to go to. We'll talk about that once Eric's back. I don't know where he went. He just kind of disappeared on me, but I was mid-rant anyway, so it was fine. Shout out to Kyle Wilson, $5 donor, says, if you trade Dame now, there's no chance of anyone wanting to play here again. If I were a draftee, I'd pull an Eli Manning and refuse to play here. I wouldn't go that drastically. I think that's a little hyperbolic. I don't think it sets a good precedent, but I think that's hyperbolic as well. I mean, I've said this before. If somebody is loyal as Dame and somebody who's, does all the right things, has the right attitude, like has all the qualities that he has, great leader, arguably the best player in franchise history. If this organization lies to him, pulls out the rug from under him, and tries to force him into a position where he's asking out so they can go young, I mean, what do you expect Anthony Simons to think, Shaedon Sharpe to think, when the time comes and maybe their stars down the line? Are they going to want to go somewhere else, or are they going to want to play for an organization that'll lie to their face and, pretend like they value them and will want to build a winner around them, but you can't trust them? Hopefully at that point you'd have new ownership, because I think a lot of the problems stem from the ownership, and maybe Joe Cronin isn't cut for his job. But then again, it's kind of hard to tell because he's basically just doing the owner's bidding. And the ownership situation is a mess. So in the future, maybe with new ownership, new front office, what happened to Dame was under people that are gone and it doesn't matter. I don't know. Shout out to... I'm trying to get caught up on donos here. Let me see. Shout out to Ads. What's up, Ads? Good to see you, man. $5 dono says, on the Chris Paul sweepstakes, I got number 1 Lakers, number 2 Pels, number 3 Mavs, number 4 Wolves. What are your picks for Chris Paul's landing spot? Is it worth betting on? I have no clue. There are rumors that he could go back to the Suns, but the Suns can't stretch out his dead money if they want to re-sign him. So basically next year, he has $15.8 million guaranteed on a $30.8 million contract. It's only 1 year left of guaranteed money. So when you waive a player, their guaranteed money still counts against your cap. It just goes in the cap as dead money. And you can have that for the length of the contract, so 1 year left of guaranteed money. So they could have a $15.8 million hit, and then they could re-sign him for maybe the minimum. And that would basically be $17.5 million wrapped up in Chris Paul instead of the $30.8 million that they would owe him if they didn't waive him. So they could save $14 million that way. But if they really want to save money, they can stretch out that salary over 3 years. So it'd be $5 million of dead money for all 3 years, but they can't re-sign him in that scenario. So, I think it depends. I think there's a legitimate chance that the Suns waive him, but don't stretch the money and then bring him back so they save $14 million without losing anything, which would be a smart play if Chris Paul's willing to do it. If I had to bet on anything specifically, that would be my bet at this point. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say. The Lakers are definitely a landing spot for him so that he could play with LeBron, though. And maybe take that team over the top. Wouldn't rule them out at all with a taxpayer MLE if they have that. Pels could make sense too, going back to New Orleans where he started his career would be kind of cool to see. And he'd make some sense there as well. Thank you, Ads, for the $5 dono. Shout out to Bry the Kid, $5 dono says, the funniest thing is seeing the media say that Dallas at number 10 can be used to get a needle mover, but also say the Blazers have to keep number 3. Yeah. Yeah. The 10th pick can be used to get somebody that can legitimately help Dallas, but the Blazers can't get anything for number 3. They have to use it. It's funny how I've seen the number 10 pick played up, but the 3rd pick downplayed. I mean, that just goes along with the whole fact that the rest of the NBA is preying upon our downfall. You have Stephen A. Bro, oh my God. I need Eric back so I don't actually get into a rant on Stephen A. Smith because I'm just, at this point, it's a venting session for me. You got Stephen A. Smith on First Take basically saying, I'm so sad for him that he's still in Portland. I see him and I just get so sad. I just want him out of there. As if we're holding him hostage and he doesn't want to be here, bro. Oh my God. I don't care what First Take says, usually, or what Skip Bayless says, or what Shannon Sharpe says, or what Stephen A. Smith says. I don't pay attention to that type of media because I can't stand it, and it's all just narrative clickbait entertainment. I am hopeful that in the long term, it changes, so I can actually watch ESPN and not roll my eyes into the back of my head and want to punch my monitor. But that's what you got Stephen A. Smith saying about Dame. Dude, it's just ridiculous at this point. And basically, we're just getting pummeled. So, thank you for the donos. Appreciate y'all. Elizabeth Allen says, JJ ripped him on that post comment. Yeah, JJ Redick, he's had some bad takes, but hopefully they're trending towards that type of media. Kyle Wilson, $2 dono, says, Stephen A. Smith wants the NBA to only be 5 teams. New York, the LA teams, and Miami. I mean, yeah, why do we have a 30-team league? The way the NBA covered is a freaking joke. It's frustrating. I wish it was covered like the NFL. God, I wish it was covered like the NFL. The NFL is covered so well. And people care about teams and the storylines within teams because of how the NFL is covered. With the NBA, it's all star-based and big market-based. So, obviously, they're going to try and pitch narratives like, this star in the freaking Pacific Northwest, who even knows where Portland is, yeah, we would love for him to play for the New York Knicks. Everything is geared towards that, and it sucks. It sucks. As a Knicks fan, I'm sure it'd be awesome, but it sucks. Kyle Wilson says, yeah, this is a good point. Stephen A. Smith went off on that rant when they were supposed to be talking about Denver and the finals. Yes, that's how bad coverage of the NBA is. It's a freaking joke. I refuse to give First Take or ESPN or any of those shows a view. I refuse. I don't want. I know it doesn't matter, but I wish there was more people that did not want to give them a view because of how badly they cover the sport. Eric, you left and I got on a Stephen A. Smith ESPN rant. That's where I went with it. Yeah. I mean, god dang, dude. I've been going. You've been gone.
Sorry.
I carried. No, it's fine. It's fine. I carried. I needed to vent. I needed to rant. I needed to get it out of my system. Just feel free to speak upon anything I just talked about.
Chris Paul, I think he's going to end up back on the Suns. I think it's just posturing to save them a little bit of money to possibly have an exception that they wouldn't otherwise have. Yeah, sorry, I was gone. I listened to you rant about so many different things that I forgot what I was going to...
Dude, I covered everything. Yeah. I mean, the whole league is preying upon our downfall.
Mm-hmm.
The media basically... we are a clickbait machine for the media. And Dame, with how honest he is, if he goes on an interview like that, he's just going to get asked pointed questions so that if he answers honestly, it'll be clickbait and views and like, he said he wants to go to Miami. And it's going to help their show. And it's a smart business move, I can't lie, but that's what it's going to be. It's just going to suck for us, is basically what it is.
In that interview, the boxing one, he did say if Miami wins a chip, there's no way he'd go there.
Yeah.
And so you got to respect that. And he also said something along the lines of, Tatum went to the finals, what do they need me for? type of thing. So I think, and he reiterated the fact that just because he gets traded to a contender doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to win. And most situations, he's smart enough to know that, team would have to match salaries, so they're going to have to give something up to get him. So would they have enough left? So that rules out a couple teams. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't get. We've been over this many times. Like the haul on Dame is not going to be a haul. It's going to be bad. And Cronin got CJ and Norm and Rocco to places they wanted to be, and took less value. He even admitted that in his press conference after the trade deadline, that he traded players to destinations they wanted to go to and probably gave up value in trades. So you don't think he's going to do the same with Dame if he trades Dame? Like, I think Dame's earned that, but that doesn't mean that we should just give him away to whatever team he wants to go to either. So.
I mean, this is what it has to be. Like, Dame, we're willing to, like, if it comes to that, here's how it should be. Dame, we're willing to trade you where you want to go, but that team has to value you enough to actually give up enough assets to get you. Yeah. And if they don't value you enough and try and strong-arm us, that's on them. We'll try and do right by you, but that's on them to give up enough because you're such a great player. Whatever team is trading for you should be giving up a bunch of assets. And that's still doing right by Dame, but that's putting the onus on the other team. You do not have to get out-leveraged and settle for something completely crappy, okay? You do not. And you're definitely, like, bro, if they take back a trade package that, in my opinion, would be worse than the trade package that they got back for Norman Powell and Robert Covington when that trade was awful, which the trade package that would be worse than that would be DeAndre Ayton and second-round picks because he's a negative contract. Like, I wouldn't want DeAndre Ayton and second-round picks for nothing, but if you're that's what you're going to get for Dame?
Ish Wainwright.
Bro, like, I'm confident that won't happen. You know, because there was a report today. Okay, let me just read this report. And this is what I'm talking about. This is an example about the type of stuff that'll just get made up, talked about with the Portland Trail Blazers. And this report says, Phoenix Suns looking for ways to acquire Damian Lillard. And it's from Sean Devaney.
Hey.
Heavy.com's Sean Devaney.
Hey, guess what? I've called out Sean Devaney on the show several times for flat out making up stuff that an executive told me. A league executive, an NBA GM told me this, and it makes no sense and doesn't even like work under the CBA, or like wouldn't be a time where an agent would have been talking to a team about signing someone like 2 years ago. It's like after the trade deadline in February, the Lakers are planning on trying to sign Bradley Beal in free agency this summer. You know, it's like they wouldn't even be talking about that yet. You know, like
yeah. Well, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
According to Heavy.com, Sean Devaney, an Eastern Conference executive, believes that the team, the Phoenix Suns, wants to free up its payroll and see if there's a way to add Damian Lillard to the roster.
What do you mean free up the payroll? Like cutting and stretching. Like, Chris Paul doesn't give them space under the cap to absorb Dame's contract or something.
It barely gives them enough space to use the MLE.
I know. Like,
so, like, you're telling me, okay, how are they going to get $45 million under the cap space so they can trade for Damian Lillard with cap space? Freeing up its payroll to add Damian Lillard makes no sense. Makes no sense. In the quote from the executive is supposedly, there is a lot that can happen there. The Suns need depth all over that roster. They want to free up their payroll. They want to see if there's a way to bring in Dame. They want to see what they can do with the DeAndre Ayton deal. There is a lot on the table, and the Lakers need to know where they are going with D'Angelo Russell. They're not just letting him walk. They traded a pick for him, and who knows if they could get Chris to sign a vet minimum deal or what, end quote. What? Like, somehow it started like the Suns need depth, but then also they want to see if they can free up their payroll and then get Dame, but then also trade DeAndre Ayton, but then also somehow it ended on like the Lakers with D'Angelo Russell. What? That quote's just all over the place. In any scenario, the Suns have to trade DeAndre Ayton for Dame. Any legitimate exec that knows anything about the NBA would know that. I know that.
Yep.
Because they're not going to be able to free up the payroll to get him, so you have to trade DeAndre Ayton.
What does Cronin know? Does he study his book enough?
I mean, they can't trade a single first-round pick.
Yeah.
They're obviously, if they're talking about waiving Chris Paul, they're obviously not getting a first-round pick for him.
Yeah.
So it's they have no young players. They have nobody under contract. And you're literally talking about, like, outside of Booker and KD, the only contracts they have that could be potentially under contract next year is DeAndre Ayton, Landry Shamet, Cam Payne, and Ish Wainwright. Dog, nobody wants any of those dudes. The Suns don't even want those dudes. Suns fans don't even want those dudes. They can't trade a single first-round pick. All they can trade is seconds. The Suns don't... Some Suns fans want DeAndre Ayton, blah, blah, blah. So many Suns fans are done with DA. A lot of Suns fans can recognize that he's overpaid. So many Suns fans don't care about Landry Shamet, would trade him for nothing just to free up his salary. Cam Payne can't stay healthy. And second-round picks, who cares about second-round picks, especially late second-round picks?
Not for Dame.
Not for a superstar. Are you kidding me? Second-round picks didn't even get included in the Nets trade. Well, Cronin loves his second-round picks.
Cronin valued 5 second-round picks.
Well, that was for, thankfully, it wasn't for a superstar. It was for a role player who didn't want to be there. Like, there is no freaking way. Like, even if Dame wanted to go there, there's no way that happens. Absolutely no way. I will literally retire from streaming. I will retire from YouTube if that happened.
The only way that's possible is if Cronin is not only dumb enough to trade him to a Western Conference team that's a contender and likely would win a chip then with him and Booker and Durant, but to be so willing to trade him to wherever he wanted, that he just accepts seconds for him and Ayton or whatever. I can't put it out of the realm of possibility. Like, I can't say for sure that he wouldn't do that.
I will confidently say for sure that he won't do that, because if he does do that, I'm gone.
Yeah. Well, I'm gone too. Yeah. For sure.
I will run it behind the scenes, get sponsorship, and Chase McGraw and maybe 503 from Twitter will run post-game shows or something. Okay. We'll Crushables or something. Like, we'll find people to run the channel for him, because I'm done. I'm gone. Goodbye. I'll try and get sponsorship, and I'll maybe do graphics, and that's it.
Charlie says you would need to get a third team in there. No, this is such, like, I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to say this to you, Charlie. But okay, so people bring up, it'll take a third team when a trade doesn't work or a team has no assets. What team is going to want assets? And so, like, okay, let's say the Pacers after a year want DeAndre Ayton still for some reason and are willing to trade, like, Miles Turner for him and TJ McConnell or something to make the contracts work. So, like, that would be what you would then get for Dame. So, like, how is that enough for Dame anyway? So, like, I don't understand. Yeah. It
like,
doesn't make sense.
If you have $100 to your name, and you're trying to buy a car that's $1,000, I love my car analogies, right? But if you have $100 to your name and you're trying to buy a car that's $1,000, how is bringing in a third person into the deal to try and buy that gonna help you get to that $1,000 mark? Basically, somebody would have to give you $900 for free. For free. Now, maybe you have, a rich aunt or something that's willing to help you out. But in the NBA, a team is not just going to give up all the assets for nothing to help the Suns bridge that gap.
And why would a team help the Suns get Dame and be like the first title contender, right? The number one team.
It makes no sense. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
According to Brady Moat, we're fair weather fans for having that opinion.
Having what opinion?
Of, like, not wanting to be fans if we give Dame away. So
we're not fair weather fans. You ever try and call our fandom into question, then you should know better. You should absolutely know better.
Okay.
Give me a break.
Even if you hate Dame and want him gone, how does giving him away help us build the championship in the future? Like, that doesn't make sense. So even if you think we can never win a championship with Dame, if we gave him away for second round picks, like, make that make sense. Like, our franchise is doomed. So. All
right, we'll take care of that. Here's the thing. If this happened, it would make it hard to be a fan right now, because it's hard to support a franchise that is so freaking shady. Okay? Get new people, new owner, new front office, I'm right back here. You know what I mean? But like if they pull the rug from Dame, but then trade him and only get back DeAndre Ayton in seconds, I'm gone. I'm gone. I'll still watch games. I'll still help the channel, but I don't want to stream. Like, I can't handle that because of how badly I want this team to be successful. It would hurt that much. It would suck. Be absolutely miserable if they lied to him, acted that shady, lied to the fans, and then say, oh, yeah, we'll trade you for a guy who you should be getting back a first-round pick with DeAndre Ayton, in my opinion. He's a negative asset, in my opinion. Some people view him as a positive asset, whatever. Like, that's a different argument. If they trade him for DeAndre Ayton in seconds, like, disgusting. That's not being a fair weather fan. That's being heartbroken that your team is so incompetent. Okay? Like, but here's the thing. Okay? Because now, here's the report that is kind of getting people right now. I don't have it right in front of me, but basically there was a quote, I think it was from Chris Haynes, that said that if Damian Lillard wanted out, essentially, the Portland Trailblazers would be willing to trade him to somewhere he wants to go in the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference was thrown in there. Okay?
It's important to note that Dame said he didn't talk to him about that.
Yeah. So Dame said this didn't come from him. Okay? And Chris Haynes, what's funny is, like, Chris Haynes was wrong yesterday. He jumped the gun on the Suns waiving Chris Paul. He said they waived him. They haven't waived him. So not only was he literally wrong yesterday regarding the Phoenix Suns, now Suns fans, but he says Dame, they're willing to trade Dame to where he wants to go in the Eastern Conference, and somebody said the Suns may look to try and get him. Ooh, Ayton for Dame. Which I can't even blame fans. I get, like, I get it, okay? I get it. And a lot of fans take it like, oh, you want our player, screw you. But, like, it's a sign of respect. It just sucks at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the media's fault, too, for just putting out complete BS. It's the media's fault more than anyone. And that's why we sit here and try and clear things up. We're not right on everything, but oh my goodness, there's so many BS reports thrown out there that guys are not held accountable for because nobody knows them.
Well, Salvatore Costello asked a good question. How would you know if they screwed Dame over if they just couldn't find a trade that makes sense? Well, I mean, Dame has answered that question already. He said that he's done with them saying they just couldn't make it work. Pretty much every other team, and we can go through all 30 teams and talk about the trades they made to get stuff done to bring in players that were impactful. And so if the Blazers can't do that again after promising it again, then I mean, I don't understand how they can keep having that excuse. And wasn't that the same thing that everyone hated Olshey for? Kicking the can down the road, never going all in, never doing it. And now, like, people are defending Cronin for doing the same thing while saying, oh, he's doing things so much differently than Olshey. No, he isn't. No, he isn't, man. Like, he's not. And
he's a nice guy, though.
And to back this up, I mean, if you don't believe me, Yusuf Nurkic last night on Twitter, he was asked thoughts on CJ saying Dame's going to get traded. And do you know what his response was, Tori? Did you see this?
I read it.
We all getting traded if Blazers not deliver. LOL. Right?
Yeah.
That's what, like, he literally is telling you. They promised Dame they're coming out and they're making trades to win. And if not, they're trading everyone. So, like, I mean, he literally said there was a promise. Like, if they don't deliver, they told them they were going to deliver this summer. So I don't think it's acceptable if they can't. They're not just going to give the pick away, but if they decide to just not trade it or whatever, they can't do anything. That's just the situation. Like, they have to get a deal done. They have to be committed to winning. And if if they try to keep the third pick, if they don't do like multiple other things to try and keep Dame happy, I don't see a way it's going to work though.
Let me take this dono, and then I'll kind of get my thoughts on this. Don and Jay Tor with the $2.99 rupee donation. He says, "Hi guys, big fan here. What would be your basic structure for a return in a Dame trade?" Hopefully a structure to jump off of. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't want to discuss Dame trades. Thank you for the you got to get back a superstar package. What did the Nets get back for Kevin Durant? They got back 4 unprotected firsts, Mikal Bridges, and Cam Johnson. Okay? You got to be talking about something close to that realm. Because Dame is still a top 10 player, in my opinion. He averaged 32 and 7 last year on the best efficiency of his career. You're talking about a top 75 player of all time who just had his best season of all time. Has taken good care of his body, has been durable. People want to act like he's injury prone now, which is just ridiculous. Like, you got to get back a superstar package.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about something close to what they got for KD. Now, it's going to be less if it happens, but it needs to be close to that. It needs to be a guy that like a Mikal type of guy, or close to a Mikal type of guy, and 3-4 firsts.
Yeah, young talent that's not guards, in my opinion. Some sort of front court players, and then multiple picks. Yeah, at least one good young front court player and multiple picks, I think, and then matching salary is fine, but you have to at least get that at bare minimum. The other thing is, though, if we trade Dame this summer, Grant's gone too, so we traded for him for nothing too, and lose him for nothing most likely. So it's not just Dame that we're losing out on nothing, and then we probably have to either attach Nurk to a Dame trade to get less back, if it's a team that could match both of their salaries, or you have to maybe give up an asset to get rid of Nurk then too. So I don't see how that makes any sense.
Yep. Suns Valley podcast says, durable? ? Yes, Dame has been durable. He got surgery for a core injury that he played through for 6 years and could have kept playing through at an extremely high level. Decided to finally get the surgery because the season was going downhill. And then last year, he dealt with a calf strain, was out a couple weeks. He still played 58 games, and that's when they decided to tank the rest of the year. Before that, he played in at least 66 games every single year. His first 3 years of his career, he did not miss a game. Okay, his games played go 82, 82, 82, 75, 75, 73, 80, 66, 67. Then he gets his core surgery. Okay, plays in 29, right? And you have to remember the 66, 67, that was around the pandemic, so seasons were shortened anyway. So then 29 gets his core surgery, and then last year he deals with a calf injury, and then he sits because they're tanking. If they weren't tanking, he would have played in 67, 68 games. Why do people act like he's not durable? Well, I don't understand.
He said that on his IG tonight too. That's funny.
Yeah, it's just I don't really get it. Them sitting him out to tank doesn't mean he's hurt. It means we're tanking hard as hell. We're trying to get Wemby. That's all that is. That doesn't mean he's not durable.
The only rap he has from being not durable is the same idiots we've been talking about this whole show that don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers don't back that up. The facts don't back that up. It's just people that they want him, but then they'll turn around and crap on him if they don't have a chance of getting him, or if he stays in Portland, or if he says he wants to stay in Portland. They'll hate on him and just say blatantly dumb stuff, acting like he's on the downslope of his career when he just had his best year ever. Acting like he's not durable when he's been extremely durable his entire career outside of a core injury. Basically, he has to be Mikal Bridges, I guess, Eric. In order to be durable, he has to be Mikal Bridges and never miss a game. It's frustrating. Smog says my favorite take is the one where we're keeping Dame hostage. Yeah. We're so bad with keeping him hostage.
I like how Gabe's making him seem like he's Chris Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not Chris Paul, Gabe. He's not Chris Paul. Hopefully he doesn't end up, once he's 37, obviously it's easier to get hurt and that sort of thing. Like, hopefully he'll maintain. I'm not saying, I'm not saying anything regarding the future, but so far to this point, he has been durable.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes good care of his body. So, he says, I'm just asking questions. I'm just clarifying, like, why he is durable. Because I know it's a misinformation thing with him. So, I mean, but that's the thing is, like, if somebody's questioning whether a player is durable or not, just go look at basketball reference and just go look at their careers and their games played. It's not too difficult. But you also have to have context. Sometimes it's fluky stuff. Sometimes it's tanking. So does need some context, but you can just look at games played. Like, dude's playing a lot of games every year, then he's durable. Every player's going to get hurt at some point if they play all the time and play hard. Like, Mikal is just an anomaly. An absolute anomaly.
Going back to the whole Nurk thing and the promise and their ability to get something done versus trying and not getting something done. I mean, this is pretty obvious, but I mean, some of you might not think it's obvious. There are players, including Jaylen Brown, like I mentioned, who want to be in Portland this summer, who want to get traded to Portland this summer, who want to be here. And there is enough of them to where one of them should be attainable. And if not, then Dame's going to be mad because he's out here recruiting and getting people to say that they want to be here, maybe leverage their way here. And
they have the assets to make it happen because he sat out.
Yeah, and if that's all he said, like, he's never said, like, who should be traded. He said we have the assets to make it happen. So
he's a competitor. He wants to freaking win.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I want to freaking win. I'm tired of losing, bro.
Yeah.
So, I mean, here's the thing. It could be that they didn't purposely lie to him, because I never gave my thoughts on this. It could be that they didn't purposely lie to them. They're just so incompetent they can't get deals done.
Mm-hmm.
And they just kicked the can down the road like, oh, we couldn't make Vanderbilt happen. Oh, we just couldn't make it happen. Okay, well, you shouldn't have your job then, if you can't do your job. Seems pretty simple. Then, but that's the thing. If that's what the GM was saying to Paul Allen, and Paul Allen was in lockstep with Damian Lillard, guess what? Paul Allen would get that dude out of here. He'd be gone. In this scenario, if Paul Allen was still alive, in my opinion. Like, if we were going into this offseason, Paul Allen would be like, we got to win. Okay, but with the ownership situation, that's a problem. Because I don't think they really care. So it could be pure incompetency, but I don't think that really changes anything. Because, like, okay, so you're so incompetent, even when I potentially recruit guys, you can't do anything. All you can do is get Cam Reddish and Matisse Thybulle at the deadline. Or Keon Johnson and Justice Winslow and just all this crap. Drew Eubanks is our backup center. Like, okay, well, that's still a legitimate reason to just be done then, So that's the thing. This front office essentially just has to deliver. And they don't have the excuse of like, oh, well, just nothing out there was viable. Well, you've been saying that for too long now. At some point, it becomes a you problem if you can't get it done.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Where did that comment go?
While you look for it, you want me to read the donut? Or do you
I got it, yeah. YYC says Blazers not high on JB or something. No, it's not necessarily that they're not high on JB. They're just still, like I said, questioning whether they should just fully go young. And even if they go young, they would still hope that Dame would be fine with that. But you can't say what they've said for that. So they can't be wishy-washy. They either have to go for it or they have to admit that they're liars, and probably cost them Dame. So that's it. It's come to that based on them failing all these times. Like if they would have gotten something done at the deadline and went for it, and maybe Dame played and they didn't make the play in or something, then Dame could maybe blame himself and say, I need to be better too. But the fact that they made him sit out after promising him to do stuff, like that, it's not that they're not high on JB. They're just not sure if they want to go through with their word, and that's troublesome.
Yeah, if they drafted 3, they have to at least trade for an OG Anunoby or better with other assets.
Yeah, they have to find someone. Yeah, they have to find
where it's
someone.
like, okay, well, we played the middle ground. Hopefully we can meet in the middle here.
Or if they're going to make Dame mad, then I guess there's no real point. I guess at that point you might just take a stand and be like, bring it on. But I would at least hope they have the cojones to come out and say, like, we failed to deliver on our promises, and we feel bad for that. Like, at least own it. But and then right under that, we have a question. Do you think what he said about Boston relates to JB and how he feels? So if you listen closely to what Dame said about Boston, he mentions how he doesn't want to go there with Tatum, right? He doesn't want to, or like not that he doesn't want to play with Tatum, but like Tatum's fine without him, right? He doesn't say anything about Jaylen Brown, and I think there was a reason for that. So I don't think it was necessarily about him not wanting to go to Boston. I think it was more that he was hinting at the JB thing still being the main target for the Blazers.
I mean, I think at this point it's pretty simple. Dame is recruiting JB. JB has told Dame he wants to play there. Okay. Portland has the assets to make it happen. Dame is expecting it to happen. So then we get all this talk about, JB wants to play here. And Dame's, expecting it to happen. And then we've had multiple people, not just you, report on, the whole JB thing. And we were really confident about it, given what the front office had said and given the way that situation was going. But then it turns out that this front office doesn't know what it wants to do. So now we're in this situation where we have no idea. And it's because the front office potentially lied to all of us.
Well, and Dame's saying, I'm still going to be in Portland in October, right? Like, I believe I will. And he said that on the boxing show. He said it today again on IG. So he is only saying that because he doesn't think the front office will actually go back on their word. He still feels like they're going to come through. So that gives me some confidence that he still believes in them, but that makes it almost worse if then they don't do it, because it seems like there is a deal on the table if they want to do it. And if they decide not to, that's just, I can't imagine. So like Dame goes out and recruits Jaylen Brown to want to come here. He decides to come here. Boston is okay with the package we're sending them in terms of doing a trade. Yeah, you can argue if it's an overpay or if it's too much or whatever, but and then Portland's like, okay, you know what? Like I understand we have this chance to go on with you, but let's just go ahead and pick the pick and not do that.
Maybe
trade.
Take a point guard.
Yeah, we'll take a 6'2" point guard too, and like let's see what happens there. Like you'll be fine with that, right, Dave? Like that would be such a slap in his face, man. Like so, like I can't imagine the way he's feeling right now that's the way this franchise will do it. But I mean, at this point, I can't really rule it out, unfortunately.
I mean, at this point, I'm legitimately worried about that happening.
Yeah.
So, I'm doing a series on the main channel. If you don't know the main channel, just take the live out of the name. It's just Blazers Uprise. We do post-game live streams over there during the season, and still do our twice-weekly streams over here. And we'll have any podcasts that we do next season over here. Working on bringing in a couple of different podcasts, a little teaser. And me and Steven's podcast we upload over here on the second channel. But on the main channel, I'm doing a series talking about how would you build a roster where you keep Dame and draft somebody with the third pick. And, I mean, like, at this point, it's kind of a fun series just to envision. Yeah, even though at this point, like, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. So the next one is actually going to be the next video. I almost have it done editing, and it's Dame and Amen, right? And, I mean, here's the thing, guys. Like, the third pick and, like, Dame and Scoo and that sort of stuff, it's good for the channel, those videos. And hopefully you enjoy them, even though they're not something super realistic. Yeah. It's like, if we're going to be stuck with dealing with all this crap and all the narratives about it, I'm at least going to, we're going to benefit off it at least. With how annoying it is, we're going to benefit off it because we have so many different video ideas and different stuff to talk about. And, it's going to help grow the channel. So at least we will benefit, is kind of how I view it. So that series is, I'm still going to do the MN video. That'll come tonight, and then I'll do Brandon Miller. But, I mean, I clarify it in that video, and basically in every video, a point's going to be like, they should really look at going after OG Anunoby and seeing if that will keep Dame happy with taking this guy at 3, and it's probably going to cost an overpay. But, if you can get OG Anunoby as the starting 3, keep Ant, keep Sharp. You have Dame, Ant, Sharp as your 3-guard lineup. OG Anunoby is your starting small forward, and then you have Amen or Brandon Miller as the backup small forward, and then you fill out the front court part of the bench. You still got an MLE. Like, that team should be noticeably better next year, especially on the defensive end. The bench should be better. Like, I think Amen can have a positive impact day one, especially just, pushing the pace with Sharp. Like, if Sharp takes a leap, I think he could push for 6th man of the year. You're not putting too much pressure on Sharp. You have your point of attack defender in OG. Like, it still, I think, could be good enough to maybe keep Dame, but if they made it sound like, okay, yeah, we're down to trade 3 and Ant for Jaylen Brown, and then that becomes possible, and they don't do it, I don't think getting an OG and keeping 3 would matter, because at that point, the organization lied to him, and Dame's not the type of guy to put up with that crap. So at that point, it's probably like, screw you, you lied to me, I'm out. So I'm still going to make those videos for fun and entertainment, and, they do well, so I'm still going to make them, but that is kind of the context behind it. It's not real. It's not realistic at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you can try to justify it and say, well, maybe there's not a good trade partner for Dame with the teams he wants to go to, so they agree to trade him by next offseason. So he is still in a Blazer uniform in October. And then maybe you're so good right at the beginning of the season that Dame starts to change his mind and stuff. But I kind of equate this to, I mean, some of you won't be able to relate to this, but if you've ever, like, been in a relationship and, your partner cheats on you, like, some people try to make it work still. And it never, like, the trust thing is never quite there again. So, like, anytime they're, going out with their friends or something, like, you never really fully trust that they're being loyal from that point on. So, like, once you break that trust with Dame, like, if they just flat out like lie to him, I have a hard time believing that. I mean, it's certainly, I guess, slightly possible, but like, there's just, I find it hard to believe a person as loyal as Dame would have his loyalty spat on and then just be okay with that down the road and be cool then all of a sudden. I mean, maybe, but like, that's asking a lot from Dame if that's what you're hoping happens.
Yep, let me catch up on donos. Hopefully it didn't disappear. Yeah. Don and Jay, your last dono disappeared. It was I forgot how much it was worth. But he had a dono asking, I'll just paraphrase it. Sorry, Don and Jay, appreciate you, bro. And then I'll get your next one. He had a dono. Do you have it?
I think he had 3.
Because my dono feed is broken today. So,
okay.
I read the first one. The second one was basically, do the Blazers need to upgrade from Nurk? And then he was talking about a petition on Twitter for Jody selling the team and something like that. So, I mean, petition ain't going to change anything there, so... I mean, get as many signatures as you can, but even if you got 1 billion, I don't think that's gonna make a difference. You could get every person on the planet to sign it, including Jody, and I don't think it would make a difference. So,
nope.
But as far as upgrading from Nurk, I mean, that's the least of my worries right now.
Yeah. So basically, here's my feelings: the Blazers, 4 years, have needed a legit backup point guard or backup center. When they've had one. I mean, the second time around wasn't good for Cantor, but the first time, it worked somehow for a little bit. And then, Nurk gets hurt and Cantor has to step in. But, I mean, even if they somehow traded Nurk for Miles Turner straight up, you'd still need a legit backup center. So I don't understand wasting assets to get an upgrade at center without addressing 2 center spots, basically. So they need somehow to address that. And I am totally fine with getting a center that's good enough to start and maybe push Nurk for starting, and that's not Drew Eubanks, no matter how many fans tried to make that a thing this year. Like a legit contester to Nurk's starting spot, that's fine. But like, when Nurk is on your team, you need a legit backup, and that goes with a lot of centers. Almost every center in the league misses some time outside of like Jokic and stuff. But yeah, most of them are not that durable. So you need some sort of quality backup. I think that's way more important than trying to upgrade Nurk, first of all.
Yep. And if Nurk is having a bad game, you can rely on that backup to play big minutes, and it's fine that Nurk didn't have a great game and didn't play much because you got that backup that can step in. If Nurk gets into foul trouble, having that backup that can step in and give you good minutes matters. So, yeah, I agree. It's more about the backup center spot. Shout out to Don and Jay Tor with a 1,500 rupee donation. Thank you, Don and Jay. Appreciate you. Says, hate the fact that Suns and Nets fans think Dame is not that great or durable because he got a major surgery for the first time in his career. He literally has been a top-tier offensive player in the past decade. Stat hit is free, by the way. Go Blazers Uprise. Thank you, Don and Jay. Yeah, I mean, basically, we're just at the point where we're going to get, like, every aspect of this organization. The players, the fans, like, we're going to get downplayed or, I mean, people just view us as, like, an awful organization, which... I can't even necessarily fault them, unfortunately, but...
I would, too, if I was on the outside.
Yeah, people are just going to downplay Dame, they're going to downplay Ant, they're going to downplay Sharp, they're going to downplay the fact that we have the 3rd pick, somehow the 10th pick is more valuable because it's in Dallas, like, that's just how it's going to be. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately. Drives me crazy, too. Shout out to Lucas DeBias. Is that a Rand? $5.50. Randono says, if Lillard wants to go out, trade with Miami for Adebayo, Martin, Robinson, Hero, 18th pick in 2023, and a first-round pick in 2024, and don't trade the 3rd pick, so like Brandon Miller. I don't think the Heat can trade 2024. I think it'd have to be like 2028 at the earliest. Mm-hmm. Like 2028 and 2030 would be like the future.
2025, yeah.
Yeah, but like they're not going to trade Adebayo for Dame.
They're trading for Dame to... pair with Adebayo and Jimmy. They're not trading.
Yeah. So, like, that's the thing. That's the type of package it would have to be, though, to be relatively fair value. But, like, they're not going to do that. If they lost in the first round, like, maybe. But they're in the finals. So they're not going to make a trade like that. Like,
yeah.
And we just saw with the Suns, they traded, all their depth for Kevin Durant. And, I mean, they did take the Nuggets to 6. So you could say they're right there on the doorstep. But they obviously didn't have enough depth this year, so it depends on if they could fill out the depth too, if they were even willing to do that, which I don't think they would be. Thank you for the donut, though.
The best you're getting from Miami is Hero, Robinson, the 18th pick, and the 2028 first.
Just not good enough.
Like, why would we trade for Hero though? Like, it makes like maybe that's where you can find a third team, but so we're getting Duncan Robinson in like 4 firsts or something. Like,
yay,
yeah,
yay, sick, dude. Yeah, we're gonna contend with that. Y'all still got Blevins to trade us? Unfortunately, no. He played overseas and was like awful or something like that. So we don't even have our meme anymore. Hopefully we still have Watford next year if we suck, so we can at least, get a cool Krish edit on the player card once in a while. God. Blevins for Aiden straight up. Who says no? I say no. Aiden, if he was making $10 million a year, I'd be fine getting him. Absolutely. Maybe even give up the 23rd pick for him, and you could have him and Nurk as your centers. Like, I would give up some value if Ayton was on a solid contract, but the fact that he's making it a max contract, it's just a non-starter for me. It's just a non-starter. I wouldn't want him for free. Now, some team out there will probably, fall in love with the idea of what they could turn him into. They could turn him into an all-star or whatever. Like, there will probably be a team dumb enough to think that will give up, maybe a late first-round pick or something. I don't know. I mean, the best-case scenario, I think, for the Suns at this point, Eric, is, Dallas gets desperate and maybe we'll trade the 10th pick plus, Hardaway and Bertans.
Yeah.
Which I would take that run if I was Phoenix.
Take and run, and then you at least have an asset to attach to one of those guys to maybe get someone, but
you know what's funny is a lot of Suns fans would be upset at that trade package because it's not Scoot and it's not Dame.
Yeah, well, they're dumb.
Some of them are just off the. I mean, that's any fan base. Some of our Blazer fans are dumb too. There's some solid Suns fans for sure. It's just, yeah.
Chase asked if we can't get JB or Mikhail, would you be interested in getting PG or Kawhi from the Clippers?
I mean,
speaking of
for
durable,
Ant and 3, PG, I mean, you're overpaying crazy.
You'd have to include Nurk too because they make over $40 million.
Yeah. I mean, you can only get one. If they're blowing it up, I'm trying to get Kawhi, and then you just hope that he's healthy, because if he's healthy, then him and Dame is a phenomenal duo, but, I don't really see it. I mean, if you have to overpay for Paul George to keep Dame, I don't know. It depends on other moves with that.
Yeah, Paul George hasn't been super healthy. I mean, of course, I'd like either one of them on the team. I think they both fit what we need if healthy, but that's a huge if. And yeah, I mean, if that, like you said, if that means that Dame's staying, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know if the Clippers see Ant as a star and they're moving into that new arena away from the that's crypto arena or whatever it is now. But they've shared an arena with the Lakers for years now. They finally are setting it up to have their own arena. Ballmer's pumping it up and stuff. They're not going to rebuild right now. If they trade those guys, they're going to be reshuffling to try and stay relevant and good, not doing that a different way.
You guys are absolutely killing it with the donos tonight. We even got a Shervin sighting, Eric.
What's up, Shervin?
What's up, Shervin? With the $5 dono. Says, Cronin and Billups probably realized they failed 2 seasons in a row and can't afford to underachieve again. Trying to reset their clock with a rebuild. Yeah, that's the thing, is somehow, if Cronin lied to Dame, somehow it would give him more job security going into a rebuild. Despite the fact that he lied to the fan base, lied to Dame for 2 years, and then didn't achieve anything. Somehow his job would be safe.
That's what happens when you're a yes man.
Yep. I hate it. Thank you, Shervin, for the $5 dono. I hate it.
Yeah. I do see that a little bit. We're going young, so... But I don't know. I think the backlash would be pretty strong. I don't know.
It better be.
Yeah.
The good thing is like people that cover the team, right? Which like I'll criticize some of them sometimes for some things that they do or say or whatever. But I do like that other people that cover the team also think the rebuild route and like how much of a sure thing that is ridiculous. Okay, because it's not a sure thing. It seems like a lot of other people that cover the team want to keep Dame. So, I mean, if things really went that route and the front office just blatantly lied to him, then I think the backlash would be pretty strong. Because I do think that the fan base is more united than people think on the Damian Lillard situation. And with this front office, doing right by him. Because the people that want to trade Dame are the vocal minority. And, some of them have legitimate reasons for doing so. Some of them are just over the top aggressive, but they are very vocal about it. I think for the most part, this fan base wants to keep Dame. Or at the very least, doesn't want to slap him in the face by lying to him. So, the backlash from us would be strong as hell, man. Like, you guys will see a different side of me. I don't know, man. Like, I've ranted before. If it wasn't the biggest rant ever, I'd be disappointed in myself. Let's just say that. Shout out Chris S. 5 pound dono. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Chris S. with the pounds. What's up, Chris? Says,
hey, Chris.
How would you compare Dame, CJ, Harkless, Aminu, and Nurkic to Dame, Sharp, Brown, Grant, and Nurkic? I mean, offensively, Dame, Sharp, Brown, Grant, and Nurkic should be better. Because you just have much more talent in the front court. Defensively, I mean, I think Sharp can be what CJ was defensively. I think Nurkic is worse than he was back then. Brown and Grant, like, I think they can be as good as Mo and Aminu were, but just not as versatile. How much does that hurt the defense? I don't know. But that's where I think like having the bench that team had would be impactful, would be meaningful. Because you had Zach Collins. You ended up getting Enes Kanter. That didn't really last because Nurk got hurt. But Zach Collins, Enes Kanter for a little bit, Seth Curry, Rodney Hood. You had a really good bench. Mm-hmm. So the Blazers need to get a really good bench. Brown is only half the battle. Then it's figuring out how to fill out the bench. Because people just be like, oh, you think just getting Brown will make us contenders? That's delusional. And it's like, well, there's also is follow-up moves to be made after that. Yeah. You have to build a good bench, like, or at least go like 7-8 deep so that, your starting lineup can maybe carry you to the playoffs, but then in the playoffs you can run out 7-8 guys like most teams do, and they can all help you win games.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, final part of his dono says, seems like a huge step forward if Shaedon can fulfill his potential. Yeah, you need Shaedon to take a step for sure.
I believe it's a huge upgrade, especially if Brown and Grant aren't, if there's third and fourth options on offense or second and third. I just think that's allows them to play tougher on defense. And I think if they focused on defense purely, they're better than role players like Harkless and Aminu. I don't think it's relatively close if they were dedicated to it. So, and playing the right roles.
Yep. Don and J Tor with a 1,000 rupee dono. Thank you, Don and J. Says, if we can't get Jaylen Brown, what other star players would you be willing to go after with Ant and 3 with the idea that it might have to overpay to keep Dame? I mean, like, I don't know. What other star players would you go after, Eric?
I'm not overpaying. If you can't get it done with Mikhail or Jaylen or whatever, I just... At some point, I think, I don't know. I don't believe that they just can't get something done with the players that Dame wants. But there aren't really a lot of players that are worth Ant and 3, depending on who's there at 3.
Yeah. It becomes a situation, in my opinion, where it's like, okay, can it only be Ant going out, or can it only be 3 going out, and is that enough for Dame? Or if it's Ant and 3 for guys where it'd be an overpay, what other assets can we get back?
Yeah.
Like that, if it's Ant 3 for Siakam, like, is there a way we can get OG Anunoby 2? Salaries, you probably have to trade out Nurkic, and then you have to fill the center spot, but, like, could maybe OG get sent to a third team? Like, you start having those conversations. Now, Toronto's kind of a bad example because Masai is stingy, but basically that's the conversation you'd be having. It wouldn't be straight up for a star. It would be, how can you get back somebody that is, a star or, like, close to being a star, but then also get back other value to make that trade worth it and keep Dame happy.
Yeah, exactly.
And make the team competitive next year, because that's obviously the goal too.
Mm-hmm. See, if I had faith in someone being creative, like, this is why I just cringe anytime I see the Orlando 6-11 trade. I don't think we have the contracts to really easily pull it off, but I don't think we have the creativity to pull off like a multi-step trade where we're trading for certain assets to then break those up and get multiple assets that way. I find it hard to believe this organization's going to pull all that off. And then at the same time, the third pick is, in my opinion, you want the best possible asset in any trade to get the most out of it. So if you're trading down, even if it's the 4, like, you're lessening the value of that pick, unless you're like the Lakers or whatever, because then somehow that would be more valuable then. But so in my mind, Ant 3 needs to be enough to get like an all NBA type player, and if not, you better, if it's for like OG, you shouldn't have to give up Ant in that situation. 3 should be more than enough. 3 by itself is an overpay for OG, in my opinion. But the good thing about OG is one of those players that you can match salary with, like Nas, Knox, Keon, and a minimum contract. So maybe that's the way you do it, and then you get 13 back from them, and maybe you get a first or two, a future first or two as well. And so you get OG and you keep Ant, and you have future first then that you could maybe attach to Ant if someone becomes available, still pull off a big trade. If not, you still got OG, you still had the 23rd pick that you could maybe let Schmitz cook with that, and maybe you get a player that ends up being better than players taken ahead of him. So I don't know. I still think there's options, even if a Jaylen Brown trade isn't available, but it is going to take creativity, and that's why I'm kind of banking on that JB trade to happen, like it's been foreshadowed to happen.
It makes things so easy. You know what I mean? Like, it just that's what I'm rooting for. I understand there's still some questions with the team, but it just makes everything so easy. It makes next season fun. That team could win if it builds out a good bench. Like, it's just what needs to happen, man. It's just what needs to happen, in my opinion. Shout out Doug Johnson, $10 dono, says, how much money does Portland need to spend to put together a championship team? I'm tired of this team trying to stay under the tax. Do you think the Portland Trailblazers are willing to spend $180 to $210 million? I don't think they are. I think Jody's too cheap for that, but also spending that much makes it harder to make moves. So spending money just to spend money doesn't really make sense. It's always about just trying to put together the best team possible, and if that's with a payroll that isn't in the tax, fine. It's just the Blazers will be limited on making moves, probably, in my opinion, staying under the tax. Like, if they pull off a JB trade, then I don't know if they're going to have their full level exception, because Jody might be like, I don't want to pay the luxury tax. Just fill out the bench with, like, whatever you can do below the luxury tax. I would expect that, honestly, and unfortunately. So, yeah, it kind of sucks.
I don't think it's like a set number. Here's where, to me, is the difference. So I think it was 2 years ago, it was the summer that Dame thought we were going to sign Kelly Oubre, who that's definitely a name to watch for with our MLE this summer. But he thought we were going to sign him. He went to where was it, Tokyo, the Olympics? Mm-hmm. and found out that Oubre decided to sign or got a big contract elsewhere, and he was kind of frustrated because he thought he was going to sign for less here. But obviously you can't blame him for taking over double what we could offer. But we ended up not using the tax mid-level at all that year, right? Because we struck out in free agency, and then by then there was no one to use it on. And then we had, at the deadline this year, for example, we could have gotten Cam Reddish at any point this year and absorbed him into a trade exception and had him in addition to Josh Hart, obviously we would have had the first, but we could have then traded Josh for something else, and had Cam Reddish still, if that's really who this team wanted to take a flyer on or whatever. And all it would have taken by multiple reports for months was 1 second-round pick. And same with Thibault. We could have, if we used him or gotten him a few days earlier, used the trade exception on him. And so it's just stuff like that. Now we have a couple trade exceptions this summer. If we just let those expire without possibly exploring adding assets or improving your bench because you're trying to penny pinch and save money, those are the kind of moves that make it tough to put a championship team together. If you're not willing to spend in free agency, or for example, what happened back early in the season after our hot start, we started having injuries, right? And we had holes, like when Nurk misses games or Dame misses games, then we didn't have really a backup point guard. We didn't have a backup center when Eubanks was starting and things like that. And the team didn't address any of those needs because they were right up against the tax and not willing to sign someone to go in the tax. But as we've seen, even a guy like Skylar Mays, who showed that maybe he could be an end of a rotation type of guy or a backup point guard in this league, those kind of guys, we couldn't even sign before making trades and getting way below the luxury tax to be able to sign those guys. So I think it's just more of a dedication where if you have holes or you have opportunity to fill holes, you actually make moves to do that, even if it means going into the tax a little bit. It's not, I have to spend X amount of dollars to be a championship team. I think it's just a series of multiple moves for years that have to be not foolishly doing it, but not caring about, is this going to cost me, $500,000 extra dollars next year if I sign Nerlens Noel or something, or trade for, Wiseman, is that contract going to put us in the tax next year? Those are the things they have to stop worrying about if they want to try and build a championship roster.
Yep. Ryan Rintz, $5 dono says, is it possible to trade Ant and 3 for Jaylen Brown and Sharp, Nurk, Nas, and future firsts for Claxton and Mikal Bridges? Would y'all do that? I do Ant and 3 for Jaylen Brown. We've been talking about that, but as a follow-up, Sharp, Nurk, Nas, and you could trade up to 4 future firsts for Claxton and Bridges, I actually don't think is bad value-wise, but Brooklyn just doesn't want to trade Mikal. Plain and simple. So I don't think Brooklyn would do that, but if you're going to go for it, Eric, I know everybody loves Sharp, and some people will stop being a fan if Sharp gets traded, even though, they knew next to nothing about him a year ago, right? But, if you had Dame, Jaylen Brown, Mikal Bridges, Jeremy Grant, and Nick Claxton, I think that is a bona fide contender. So I would do it. You need to fill out the bench, but
yeah, that's tough. I don't know if I could do it, but I definitely would see the mindset. But yeah, unfortunately, up until this point, Brooklyn is just not trading Mikal. They love him, so they value him more than we value Sharp. And we heard today that Sharp is untouchable. Or I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but it came out that Sharp was untouchable too. So, yeah, I don't know.
That team, outside of maybe Denver, would be the best team in the West, in my opinion. That team, I mean, it depends on what like Phoenix does too, but I could see that team taking Phoenix in a series. They got the guys to defend KD and Booker. They got the defensive players. Offensively, they'll be great. Like just a two-way team.
Yeah. So one is, I mean, I've said this before, but the way most Blazer fans feel about Sharp is how the Nets feel about Bridges. So that's why, like, it's so difficult to just imagine them then trading him this offseason. Now, maybe they struggle next year, or things aren't working out, or he's not as good as he was for that stretch this year for them, and things change. So maybe he's gettable at some point next year, or maybe they end up not wanting to pay Claxton at some point. So that's definitely a possibility, but I just find it hard to believe that they'll come down from that stance, just like I don't believe that Toronto will ever come down from their asking prices on some of their players until it actually happens. The other thing is with I just completely lost my train of thought, but
that's fine. I need to catch up on Dotus.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't know. I don't know if the Blazers would do all of that. They really like Sharp.
Yeah. Shout out to Snack and K with the $2 donut. Says, what would it take for you guys to protest at Moda Center? Thank you, Snack and K, for the $2 donut. I mean, if they don't care about lying to the best player in franchise history, why would they care about fans protesting? Like,
yeah. Oh, that's what. That reminded me. Thank you, Snackin'. So they, man, what is my problem?
I don't know what your problem is.
Go ahead and read the next dono. I'll think of it again.
Okay. We got an Adam Versive sighting. Good to see you, Adam Versive, with the $20 dono. Thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate all of y'all. Says T&D. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and ideas with us. Do you see Portland being able to win a chip this next year with adding another star player? Do you feel like better role players / deeper bench would be more help for Dame? I think they need to add a JB type of player and then need to have a much better bench than they had last year, and then they have a chance at making a run. I mean, there's a lot more parity in the league now, and I know people think like, oh, well, you got the Nuggets are unbeatable. I mean, they got Jokic and Murray and Porter and good role players. Like, they got one all-star. Murray, you could say, is another all-star caliber player, but it's not like their roster's some sort of super team. They're really good. They play together, but, I mean, we've seen Dame be able to like, go toe-to-toe with Jokic in a series before, and we've seen the Blazers beat the Nuggets. They were worse than they are now. Didn't have Michael Porter Jr., right? But, like, they had Jamal Murray, and Portland beat them playing Enes Kanter against Jokic. So, you know, it's not to say that it's the same Denver Nuggets team, but shoot, man. I mean, I think you would have a chance at being competitive with them, and at that point, then who knows? Who knows? You could beat that team maybe if you have Jaylen Brown, if Sharp takes a jump and you have a good bench.
Mm-hmm. Bruce Brown, they're likely going to lose this year just because they can only pay him $7.4 million, and so unless he takes a much bigger discount, he's at least going to get the full mid-level, I would assume, somewhere, which is $12 million something. So he'd be giving up quite a bit of money. If he wins a ring, maybe he stays, but like he could just say he won a ring and then go get a payday because he hasn't had a big payday yet. So I think they might lose him, and that would really hurt their overall ability to fill out that bench because with the new rules, it's going to be tough for them to add anyone to replace Bruce Brown if they lose him.
Yeah, and I mean, the Blazers could give Bruce Brown potentially more if they have the full mid-level exception, which they could have after a JB trade. So, it's just a question of, is Jody willing to go into the tax at all? Because you get hard cap $7 million past the luxury tax if you use the full mid-level exception. So that Bruce Brown's a guy I'd love for Portland to go after, but just him leaving Denver would weaken them. And then, the Lakers were in the conference finals. If we get Jaylen Brown, you're telling me we can't compete in a series against the Lakers with LeBron another year older? you have a chance if you're Portland. There's parity in the league now. It makes more sense than ever to go for it with Dame, which is why it would sting more than ever if it was like, oh, well, we're at our last chance, and it makes more sense than ever, and we have the assets, and Jaylen Brown wants to come here, and Boston's willing to do it, and we say no, and lie to Dame, like that. Oh, that would really, really crush me. Shout out Tyler59 with a $5 dono.
What's up, Tyler?
He has like 5 R's, and I like just drawing out the R's like it's spelled.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler with the dono says, what's up, gentlemen? Not really a question, but it's so emotionally exhausting watching all these Dame rumors. The media pushes so hard for him to leave. Melting emoji. Yeah, dude. This is your place to vent about it. This is the place for us to vent about it. It's a therapy session, hopefully. It sucks. It's frustrating. If you just tuned into the stream in the past, 15, 20 minutes or so, we went on long rants about it. Eric dipped out for 5 minutes. Don't know where he went, but I ranted about it for that entire period of time. Yeah, it sucks. We feel your guys' pain, man. Like, it's tough, and we pay as much attention as probably anyone to what other fan bases say and what's said on Twitter and what our own fan base says. So, and then even if we're not paying attention, people are like, did you see this? Did you see what Stephen A. Smith said? It's just like, oh, it's overwhelming. It sucks. So, appreciate the dono.
Yes, thank you, everyone. So, yeah, I finally remember what I was going to say. Sharp's popularity is a factor in all this. And the fact that, I mean, whether it's a vocal minority or not, that want to trade Dame and build around Sharp, which is fine. But it's pretty common that almost no one wants to just flat out trade Sharp no matter what, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, rightfully so. He's a super exciting player, even if he doesn't become one of the best players of all time or whatever, like some people think he is. He's still super fun to watch and just has a game that just jumps off the screen as enjoyable to watch for even like the average viewer. So, like, there's a reason why so many people love him so far. And of course, dunks are going to be a big thing. I mean, we saw that with Aaron Gordon and now Zach LaVine and stuff. Like, people just think like that's cool. Like, they're super athletic. That automatically means they're good or whatever. But the thing is, it does play into the equation a little bit. Them thinking, wait, if so many people love Sharp, then maybe that lessens the impact of us moving on from Dame and going young, because Sharp can take over for some of those eyeballs and some of that fandom that we'd lose if we lost Dame. So maybe they think they can be better sooner with those guys, or maybe they just think Sharp can sell tickets enough to do it. But they definitely,
or they're just cheap.
They're cheap and he's much cheaper. So yeah. So I just think that is part of the equation. So that is something to think about when we're talking about trading Dame, is like, maybe that's the shift, is they saw Sharp, how good he could be at the end of the season, and how much the fans loved him, and maybe they think that they could sneak this one by people. I don't know.
This is gonna sound weird and sound like hating, but it's not hating, okay? I just feel like we've gotten a little bit over optimistic with Sharp because of his stretch of play when the Blazers were tanking at the end of the year, to the point where, like, I almost wish he didn't go on that hot stretch, because I feel like the view of him would be more realistic right now. Like, Trendon Watford as a starter his rookie season when the Blazers were tanking averaged like 15 points per game, like six rebounds, 4 assists or something insane like that. Like, he averaged really good numbers, right? And it was like, oh, maybe he can play a role this year. And then he sucked the first half of this season. Mm-hmm. Watford was just straight up bad. Just got cooked on defense, couldn't rebound. Like, only against bad teams could he really do anything with the ball in his hands. Like, I feel like the expectations for Sharp might be a little too high going into next year. A little too high. And here's the thing. I'm not going to rule him out because of how much he improved during the season, and that stretch showcased his improvement. The stretch was obviously a good thing. It was a good thing because it showcased what he can do, and he improved. But, I mean, if the organization is like, oh, we can let our best player ever walk because of this stretch of games at the end of the season we were tanking when Shane Sharp looked good. Like, that's just silly to me.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about that is there were some things that do bode well in terms of being a star. One is watching film and applying it immediately to a game action, which he started to do towards the end. Mm-hmm. And then also taking over games late to the point where they had to bench him for a full game in San Antonio and at the last like 10 minutes of a game in Memphis, just so he wouldn't lead them to victory. So it's not exactly just flat out tanking those last games. But overall, if Sharp didn't have that in stretch and basically hit the wall after a hot start and just played like, I mean, he didn't play well so if he just continued not playing well, not shooting the ball well, being very out of place on defense, all that kind of stuff for the rest of the season, then I think maybe, we're looking to trade him right now, but then at the same time, we'd be trading low on him, which wouldn't make any sense either. So I get why people say that because, I don't know. It seemed different with Sharp than just normal tanking stuff.
Yeah. You can't make drastic decisions based on small sample sizes when you're tanking. Right.
Yeah.
Or a 4-game winning streak. Justice Winslow.
The other thing I liked about Sharp too is I did like seeing him guard, some of the best players on the other team and matching up with super tough defensive assignments. Like the Pelican game really stands out where Herb Jones just completely took him out of the game. But that was cool to watch him take on those challenges and learn from them. And then the next game when someone tried to lock him up like that, just seeing the growth in him in that short amount of time. So, and as Andy says in chat, he showed a little bit of underrated passing ability as well, which he hadn't shown at all. Like he was one of the worst passers in the league. I thought he was going to be one of those type that didn't pass at all. Prior to that. So I do think there is some reason to be excited, but I do think it's a little too early to count on him to be like a star level guard next year in the starting lineup.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you look at what Josh Hart did when we tanked. He averaged 26 and 4 or whatever and like was super efficient. I mean, and then this year he was scared to shoot the freaking ball. Like, that's the thing is it can be a sign of good things to come for sure, and seeing him improve like that and apply, watching film and making adjustments to his game in real time was definitely a good thing to see and should bode well for the future. But, I mean, we cannot completely just overreact to it and anoint him a future top 10 player and it's okay to trade Dame because look at what Sharp did last year. He looked like a star at the end of the season. Like, just making moves based on small samples during tanks aren't usually smart. So that's just all I'm warding against. I still think he can be a star. I've been on board the Sharp train. I'm just like people. I feel like some people might be a little over optimistic next season, and one of the reasons I speak out against it is it could lead to people getting frustrated with him because their expectations are so high, and he's still only 20.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Happy birthday to Anthony today.
Yeah, happy birthday to Ant. I kind of want to bring Sharp off the bench next year for that reason. So,
dude, play him the way you played him at the end of last season off the bench. I completely agree.
Not too much pressure. Like he can go through. Like sophomore slumps are a thing. He can. Scotty Barnes, I don't think was as good his sophomore year as he was his rookie season. I don't know. Maybe there's some stats that say otherwise, but like He sophomore slumps are a thing, man. Be prepared for, be prepared for it. Hope for the best, obviously. I hope he comes out and averages 25 a game next year. Then, I mean, this team is good no matter who else we have, probably. Like, no matter what route we go if he's averaging 25 a game. So, we'll see. Shout out to Doug Johnson, $10 dono. Says, keep Dame, bad or good trade. The number 3 pick, Shaden and Nasir Little for Franz Wagner, Bull, Wendell Carter Jr., picks 6 and 11, surround Dame with vets and good contracts. I'm not a fan of that because you're giving up 3 and Shaden Sharp. I love Franz Wagner. I just don't think he's available. I don't think either team would be willing to do that trade. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as good as Franz is, I still think Sharp could be better in a year or two, and I just think that's silly. And then also the 3rd pick just has so much more value than 6 or 11 in this draft. So you're downgrading basically 2 assets for lesser assets and I don't think that makes you a contender either.
Yeah,
so
it's not a bad idea in terms of like practicality,
right.
In terms of getting like solid young players on good contracts, because that'll please Jody and it's easier to make moves. Like it's not a bad thought whatsoever. But I agree with Eric. I'm not a fan of like trading down from the 3rd pick and trading the upside of Sharp. I think you just limit the upside by trading both 3 and Sharp for those guys. As much as I love Franz Wagner,
I'd rather take a men at 3 and have Sharp and a men than trade for Franz. I mean, because I don't think trading for 6 and 11 and Franz and Wendell Carter Jr. makes Dame want to stay over keeping Sharp in 3. Like, I don't think that's enough to make him want to not leave.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, that's a wrap for this episode of Blazers Uprise Live. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. If you need any life advice, because if you're new, we end off our streams with life advice for people that need it, from 2 dumbasses on YouTube, okay? But we're going to postpone that. Next stream, we will get you covered with the life advice if you need it, if you have some turmoil going on in your life or have a big life decision. Because people have asked us about jobs and career choices and stuff, so we'll have you covered. Thank you to everyone who donated. One final donation. Shout out Adam Versive, $5 donor. Says, Portland fans be polishing turds trying to find hope with this front office. Don't forget to hit the like. Yes, don't forget to hit the like. We appreciate that as well. Appreciate everyone who donated, and appreciate you, Adam Versive, for that $5 dono. Yeah, I mean, optimism is a wild thing. Man. This front office just has to step up and do something at this point. Dame's put the pressure on them, and we'll see how it plays out. I am worried, but at this point, all the noise, just ignore it.
At least Dame feels confident. He seems like he's sure about it, but that makes me even more nervous at what happens if he doesn't get what he wants.
Yep. I mean, either the front office comes through for him or they don't, and anything regarding him would take place after that, so I'm not even worried about that yet. Like, what we'd get back for him. That's why I'm going to dodge those questions still. I'm just worried about, can the front office actually pull something off or not? And we're going to find out in the next, 2 weeks from today, we'll probably have our answer, because the draft is 2 weeks from today. We'll have a live draft stream, and we'll see. Dude, this is such a monumental 2 week period.
2 weeks from tonight, we might be talking about the end of an era.
Or we could be talking about Jaylen Brown being a Blazer. Who knows?
Yep.
We're along for the ride with you guys. We have you covered. Appreciate y'all. With that being said, we are out of here. Thank you to Ben Online for sponsoring this stream. Promo code BELIEVE, BOEAV, 50% rewards. And we will catch you again on Monday, because today's Thursday. We'll have videos over the weekend. Stay tuned for those. And with that being said, we're out of here. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.